My name is Susie McKenzie and I'm the Young Mayor for North Tyneside. Today we have Stephanie Gibbs from the immunisation team and Alex Kent, who's a GP. And we've asked young people in North Tyneside for questions and our panel is going to answer them tonight. The panel have prepared questions and you can also ask further questions in the comments below. So, Alex, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yeah, so I'm Alex Kent. I'm a GP in Hampshire and I also work at North Tyneside CCG as a clinical director. I'm here tonight to hopefully answer any questions that you've got on the vaccination programme.
And Stephanie, would you like to introduce yourself?
Hello, I'm Stephanie Gibbs. I'm the immunisation team lead. I work for Northumbria Healthcare and we deliver the immunisation vaccinations to all school-aged children.
So, Alex, if it's all right with you, I've got some questions from the young people. Somebody has asked, if I've already had COVID, do I still need the vaccine?
Yes, if you've already had COVID, we would recommend that you still get vaccinated. The only thing that we would say in addition to that is that you should wait 4 weeks from when you had your initial symptoms or from when you had an initial positive test to get the vaccination.
That's great. Somebody else has asked, are the side effects different for young people?
So the common side effects that people get are pretty universal. As with any injection, you can sometimes get a bit of pain around the injection site. Sometimes with the COVID vaccine, you get a bit of a headache, a bit of muscle pain, a bit of tiredness. The sort of main issue in terms of side effects for younger people is myocarditis, which is some inflammation around the heart. Now it's really important that we recognise that this is a very, very rare side effect, but because it's potentially serious, we need to make sure people are aware of it.
That's great. We know COVID is a virus and mutates, so will the vaccine also have to be updated the same way the flu jab does?
Yeah, so the research into the vaccines is ongoing. It's likely that over the years that COVID is with us, we will need various updates to the vaccination to deal with any kind of new strains that come along, much like with the flu programme. There's also some early evidence from countries which are a little bit ahead of us in terms of vaccination, such as Israel, that actually the immunity from the vaccine does start to wane after a period of time, and so that's why we've also started on the booster programme for those older vulnerable adults.
So some young people in the coming weeks are going to be having their flu jab and also their COVID vaccination if they consent to it. So will it affect the effectiveness of the flu jab?
No, so the COVID vaccine won't affect the effectiveness of the flu jab, and actually you can have both of them together at the same time, and you can either have them at schools, in GP practices or in pharmacy sites if you're eligible for both.
So I personally, as a young person, have had the first vaccine. Will I be needing a second vaccine?
So the current advice in the UK is that it's a single dose of vaccine for healthy 12 to 18-year-olds, unless you are within 3 months of your 18th birthday, in which case you'll get a second dose. The evidence basically shows that a single dose will give you about 60% protection from COVID, basically. Obviously, as time goes on with the vaccine programme, we get more evidence, there's more research that's happening, so it may well be that in the future there are changes to that, but that's the current advice, and I think as with everything with COVID, we sort of need to take it step by step because things change pretty quickly.
So another young person has asked, is it safe for me to take other medications before I have the vaccine?
Yeah, absolutely. You can continue to take all of your normal medications.
Somebody else has asked, do I still need to take the lateral flow test once I've had the vaccination?
Yeah, so you'll still need to take the lateral flow tests if you are checking for sort of asymptomatic infection, but we would advise if you have got symptoms of COVID, then a lateral flow test is not sufficient and you do need to get a proper PCR test, which you can book on the NHS website or by calling 119.
Brilliant. So how do you convince your friends to get the vaccine if they're scared or sceptical of it?
So I think this is a tricky one because obviously vaccination is quite a personal choice, and everyone is going to have their own reasons for wanting to be vaccinated or for not wanting to be vaccinated, and you know that is an individual decision, and it should be based upon the facts and the sort of real risks and benefits. One of the problems that we've got with the COVID vaccination is that there is quite a strong anti-vaccination movement, and so a lot of the information that's out there on sort of social media and on the internet isn't very accurate. So you know, I would kind of probably explore the friends' reasons for not wanting to get vaccinated. You know, it could be something quite straightforward, like they've got a needle phobia. It could be something a little bit more complex, like they know somebody who has had a problem with the vaccination, or it could be that they've read something on the internet which is completely inaccurate. So I'd probably have a explore of what the reasons behind that is, and then kind of point them in the direction of some accurate information. So there's lots of information about the vaccination on the NHS website, and then the vaccinators who are going around schools, so people like staff will be able to answer any questions. So if you're unsure about it, say go along, ask the questions, or book an appointment with your GP or your practice nurse who should be able to give you some more information about that.
That's brilliant. Thank you for answering all those questions for us. We'll now move on to Stephanie. We've also got some questions for you. So where will the vaccines be given to young people?
So it depends on how old the children are. So 12 to 15-year-olds vaccinations will be given in schools. The 16-year-olds and above will either go to vaccination centres or through their GP surgeries.
And if the vaccines are given in schools, what about young people who aren't in schools?
So there will be specific clinics set up for the children that are educated at home, and we'll sort those clinics out and get some dates out to families in the near future.
And somebody's asked, what happens if you are sick with something or you have a cold? Will that affect getting the vaccine?
So if you have a cold, it won't necessarily affect the vaccine. Normally would look for a high fever. So and I would imagine if you're having a high fever, you probably wouldn't be in school anyway. If you're feeling generally unwell with a bit of a cold or a slight headache, then we'll just talk you through how you're feeling and what that would look like.
That's great. So what can someone do if their parents...
We are not doing anybody's vaccination unless we get consent from the parents. If the young person comes to us and says that they want the vaccination, then we'll try and have a conversation with the parents, and that would more than likely would happen in a clinic or in some sort of mop-up centre.
So we've had a parent send a question in. She says, my daughter is 14 and has just had COVID within the last 2 weeks. How long does she need to wait until she's allowed to get the jab?
So she would have to wait for 4 weeks after the initial positive test.
Do the young people get a card to say that they've had the vaccine?
They do. So they do in school. So as soon as they've had the vaccination in school, they get a patient information leaflet which tells them all about the COVID vaccination they've had, and they also get a card that says the date of the vaccination that was given.
And we've had another parent send one in. They say, my child turned 12 later this year after the school immunisations team is visiting the school to administer the COVID vaccine. Will he get another chance to get the vaccine once he turns 12?
So we're currently only going into schools once, and the current discussions are that as the children turn 12 after we've been in, we are looking at possibly going to a vaccination centre or a GP, but those discussions are still being held with the regional teams.
Great, thank you very much.
Thank you.
So that's all the questions we have on the pre-sent in, but we have some questions from the live. So somebody's asked any information on the ingredients in the vaccine, and that's to either of you who wants to answer.
So as far as I know, all of I don't know if this is maybe from someone who's concerned that it's not vegetarian or vegan, but as far as I know, there's no kind of animal products in it, and it's been sort of it's fine to use in different sort of religious groups as well, because I don't think there are any sort of animal products in it. There's no egg in it, so egg allergy isn't an issue. Is there anything else that you can think of, Stephanie?
No, I think it can be given to the majority of the population because and one of the reasons I think because we're freezing it and it's having to be so, the Pfizer vaccine particularly has to be so protected when we're preparing the vaccine because there's no stability and stabilisers and added ingredients other than the vaccination components.
That's great. So I think that's all the questions we've got for you. So thank you both for coming along today and answering some of our questions as young people. Thank you to everybody who's joined the live and asked some questions to our expert panel. And I'll say goodbye. After, I say to the 12 to 15 year olds to get your vaccines in school when offered. And to 16 to 17 year olds, you can book online or go into a walk-in clinic. And there's information on the council's website on where to do this. And generally, there's general information on the COVID vaccine on the NHS website, so I advise you all to check that out.